tonight on CBC Vancouver News.
On Sunday, up to 2,000 people can enjoy a very family-friendly, fun environment.
As the Canucks begin their Stanley Cup playoff series against the Edmonton Oilers, Vancouver's mayor says outdoor viewing parties are coming. Plus,
ICBC today is able to announce that they will provide a $110 rebate to drivers.
The Premier announces cash back for most BC motorists. The opposition calls it pre-election politicking.
EB and the NDP are trying to buy your vote with your money.
And
this is husband against wife, neighbor against neighbor, friend against friend.
Just get together on this and get things done.
fed up in Harrison Hot Springs. Some residents demand elected officials find a way to work together after more than a year of tension.
This is CBC Vancouver News.
Hello, I'm Dan Burritt. Thanks for joining us. It is Canucks playoff game day, and Vancouver's mayor has promised outdoor viewing parties for fans are on the way. The gatherings will start later this week and could get bigger if the team makes it past the second round of the Stanley Cup playoffs. But as John Hernandez explains, they won't be held anywhere near Rogers Arena.
Hey, little buddy.
Ahead of a big playoff matchup, Vancouver Mayor Ken Sim took to social media Wednesday morning to tease the Oilers and promised Canucks fans they'll soon have a place to watch games outdoors.
We're also going to be activating a place called Oak Meadows Park on 37th and Oak, where on Sunday.
The city will host the viewing party here at Oak Meadows Park. The grass field said to accommodate about 2,000 people. The park is in a quiet residential neighborhood with no bars or pubs nearby. The closest SkyTrain station is more than a 15-minute walk away, making it a bit tricky to get to. Its relatively small location is by design. Following the riots in 2011, Vancouver police have advised against big playoff parties downtown.
These smaller, community-based, family-focused gatherings are more conducive to maintaining public safety, and it's more appropriate than having a larger one, like the one we've seen in years past downtown, which only created issues for us.
A move that's garnered the support of the downtown's business association, which doesn't want a destructive repeat.
2011 is still fresh in a lot of people's minds. I was there. I saw the beginning of the riot starting to occur.
Diehard fans like podcaster Tej Dhaliwal are also understandable.
It makes perfect sense why we would be apprehensive. It's been a long road to get to this point.
And the parties could get bigger. There's plans for a 6,000-person viewing at the PNE if the Canucks advance. A far cry from the giant street parties of the past, but still welcome news for hopeful fans.
There's nothing like being a part of thousands and thousands of people in a crowd cheering on the team that you love. And I wouldn't say I'm disappointed. I'm more excited to see where this goes.
A trial run that could lead to bigger parties as these fans try to earn back the city's trust.
Excited!
John Hernandez, CBC News, Vancouver.
If you drive in this province, the Premier says you're going to get some money back. David Eby says most eligible motorists will get a rebate from ICBC thanks to rosier financials at the public insurer. But as Mira Baines explains, the opposition argues the NDP is trying to buy votes ahead of the fall election.
With an election about 6 months away, Premier David Eby says eligible drivers will receive a $110 rebate from the public insurer.
This is the fourth rebate that ICBC has been able to issue since our reforms.
ICBC customers who held a basic insurance policy in February 2024 qualify for the cashback.
We're working as hard as possible to get the rebate out as fast as possible. The first rebates are expected to go out at the end of May, and then we're working every day thereafter to get the rest of the rebates out, and we expect that to be done by the end of July.
Wong says the fastest way to get your rebate is by signing up for direct deposit, or you'll get your money back in the way you pay for insurance, such as a credit card or auto plan monthly payments. The Premier went after BC United and the leader of the BC Conservatives, who has been gaining political momentum in recent polls.
The proposal from John Rustad is that he would rip up this model of insurance for British Columbia, resulting in a $500 annual insurance increase for British Columbians. Well, they can't afford that.
Back in 2021, ICBC shifted to a no-fault model for providing health coverage. That removed millions of dollars in legal costs from the system and improved ICBC's financial picture. BC Conservative MLA Bruce Banman calls the rebate politicking.
You know, it's shameful. EB and the NDP are trying to buy your vote with your money while running the largest deficit ever in British Columbia. It's outrageous.
BC United leader Kevin Falcon responded to criticism that the former BC Liberal government hiked ICBC rates when it gained power. Falcon claims the NDP is flashing money around to distract from its drug decriminalization policy.
They've been forced to beg the federal government to bail them out of their reckless, irresponsible decriminalization policy, and the government's only partially done that. And now they're trying to say, here, we're going to give you back a $100 rebate.
Still, EB says ICBC insurance rates will remain frozen for the next 2 years. The provincial election is set for October. Mira Baines, CBC News, Victoria.
We have some developing news to share with you. Premier David Eby has announced the government has identified sophisticated cybersecurity incidents involving government networks. Eby says there's no evidence right now that sensitive information has been compromised, but there's more work to do. He says they're working with the Canadian Centre for Cybersecurity and other agencies to figure out the extent of the incidents and bring in any safeguards to protect data. They've also alerted the Office of the Information and Privacy Commissioner. We'll bring you any updates later in the show. BC's Legislative Assembly has released the first of its kind Reconciliation Action Plan, aimed at building a new relationship with Indigenous peoples by addressing historical injustices.
Every person who visits this building should feel that they are welcome and they belong here.
The plan outlines commitments and actions the Legislative Assembly will take to contribute to reconciliation. That includes issuing an apology to First Nations in BC, an official one, and incorporating Indigenous customs and cultures into the rules and practices of the Assembly. People in one of BC's smallest but most well-visited communities say they're fed up. For 18 months, the mayor and 4 councillors in Harrison Hot Springs have struggled to work together and govern the village. Many council meetings have ended in screaming matches and ejections. As Chad Poston reports, some residents are considering moving because of the civic dysfunction.
Harrison Hot Springs, it's what people come here for, to relax in, to soak in hot water. But there is trouble here, an ongoing rift between the village's council.
Today is a sad day for this village. In my opinion, there is a coup.
That's Harrison's troubles at their peak 3 weeks ago, a normal 3-hour council meeting lasting 13 minutes, with the mayor refusing to speak further. Mayor Ed Wood accuses 3 councillors of conspiring against him, voting en bloc to block Wood and Councillor John Allen. Wood campaigned on cleaning house in the village, and while not giving interviews, he says the conflict's taken away any authority he's supposed to have at council and at the village office, describing it as a toxic workplace. After 18 months of this, residents on both sides of council are fed up.
A lot of us are actually looking to move somewhere else because we're horrified. This is husband against wife, neighbor against neighbor, friend against friend. It is crazy. The stress is unbelievable.
Residents want council to address pressing issues, such as how to protect the village from the threat of wildfire. There's only one road leading in and out, with forested hillsides on both sides.
Just get together on this and get things done, you know? There's a lot of people that are starting to move out of Harrison, and I hate to say it, but I think it's a lot to do with council.
Council has a path out of its quagmire. Last year, an advisor was put in place by the province and recommended 7 actions that, if taken, could help council function. They would have politicians and staff understand their roles. 2 of the recommendations were on this week's council agenda, but ended up unpassed and a source of further conflict.
I will remove you.
What was the
I will
ruling?
remove you from this meeting if you continue.
What was the ruling on the point of order?
The ruling was that we continue on.
That's not a ruling on the point of order.
The ruling,
I've called a point of order.
Councillor Vidal, you're ordered removed from this meeting.
I'm not leaving the meeting,
Please
Mayor
remove
Wood.
yourself from this meeting.
I am not leaving.
So, what now? Mayor Ed Wood wants the province to step back in and drop the hammer on the village, but the minister is remaining hands off, expecting instead action on the municipal advisor's recommendation. She also hopes to see a progress report. The village's next election is more than 2 years away, time enough for council to settle its differences and move forward, something residents are still hopeful for. Chad Pawson, CBC News, Harrison Hot Springs.
Two wildfires in the Prince George Fire Centre have been burning since last year, have now been declared out of control, and a new fire is burning in Kamloops. The Noga Creek wildfire is burning about 500 hectares, and the Patrick Creek wildfire is 0.5 hectares. BC Wildfire Service says an incident management team is headed to Fort Nelson to assume command there. Both blazes are forecast to grow over the next few days. Meanwhile, in Kamloops, an out-of-control fire was discovered near Edwards Creek. Now, if you're feeling anxious about the warm, dry weather and lack of rain across BC, imagine what it feels like to be a wildfire fighter. Frontline crews are training for another volatile season, and the physical and emotional demands are grueling. The CBC's Shelley Joyce has a daughter who is a firefighter this summer with the Wildfire Service. She spoke with people about the mental stress those on the front lines are facing.
My experience in my first few years was really incredible. I got to see a lot. I was working all over the province and worked with some really amazing people. So my first few years were really, really great.
Alex Lane started fighting wildfires in 2015. The camaraderie, the adrenaline, the necessity of the job was intoxicating to her. She loved it. 4 years later, the fires were not as threatening, and the downtime didn't come as a relief to Alex. In fact, it had the opposite effect.
Things slowed down in 2019, and that's when I found things got a little bit more challenging in terms of my mental health. So when there was that time to kind of reflect and that time to catch up, I found that very hard.
At first, Alex thought that her experiences were unique and they made her feel weak and fragile. Eventually, she discovered that other firefighters were going through the same experience as well.
Fire seasons are getting longer, and the recovery time for people is getting shorter in between seasons. So I'll get calls from people at this time of year who say that they still feel like they're buzzing from last fire season.
Anna Richards fought fires for 20 years. Today, she's a clinical counselor, running a hotline of sorts, a confidential service for forest firefighters. She says public perception is critical to these workers. They're on social media, and they read what is being said by the general public, and it leads to what she calls moral injury when they feel a public backlash.
There's already this foreboding sense of doom for some of them. On the whole, people who are drawn to this work are people who, carry the burden. They are people who care a great deal about doing a good job.
I'll check in when fire's under control.
That dedication is apparent, even when talking to new recruits and hearing why they signed up for one of the toughest summer jobs in the province.
The dangers of it are real, but I want to be in there helping. I don't want to be on the sideline, and I want to make a difference.
We're stronger than we think. We can just keep going. There's no stopping.
No stopping. An attitude that works well in the woods, but not when the orange helmets are traded in at the end of the season. A reality the BC Wildfire Service says it's now dealing with.
This isn't easy money. This is hard money. This is challenging. These are people that push themselves to the limits, and sometimes they actually don't know where their limits are, and we have to support them and pull them back. We have to be aware of each other and take care of each other.
Greer says that the BC Wildfire Service is focusing on proactive resources for worker mental health, ongoing mental health and resilience training. Alex Lane no longer works on the front lines. She's now working on her master's degree, focused on mental health and firefighters. And she sees a big change in how new recruits are mentally prepared.
I don't have to take this on alone, and I'm not alone in this. And there's also been a change organizationally in the culture and the attitude towards mental health. 10 years ago, it wasn't something that was talked about as much.
Shelley Joyce, CBC News, Kamloops.
Karis Hogg joins us now with the first look at the weather, and you have an update on our wildfire situation.
That's right. Yeah, we're headed for a stretch of warm, dry weather, starting today. And having a look here at our BC fire danger rating. This is from the BC Wildfire Service. You can see the blue is very low and orange-red is extreme. So in this northeast corner of the province, very high danger. And then also there is this little pocket right here. This is close to Kamloops there where that fire was discovered. So as I said, we're heading towards warm, dry conditions, warmer even, than today. Taking a look at satellite and radar over the past 6 hours for the south coast, no precipitation. It was just sunny skies the whole way through. And looking at tonight and into early tomorrow, I've got our sunset at 8:38, sunrise at 5:41. We've got long days, and they are just getting warmer in the next couple. And I'll have more information on that coming up later in the show.
Sounds good. Thanks, Karis. It is Women's Health Week in Canada, and we've been speaking with women about their health challenges that often go overlooked. As part of a series, the CBC's Ashley Moliere shows us how it's not just PMS and how unbalanced hormones can have a big impact on people's health.
Hormones, they're like a symphony in our bodies, but when things are off key, it can really suck, especially around periods. We might not even know what's happening or why. One example is PMS, premenstrual syndrome. It's common a week or so leading up to a period. You could feel physical symptoms like fatigue, breast tenderness, and bloating, to name a few. And then there's the emotional aspect to it.
So there's some women who suffer from PMS who are mostly swinging off the hormonal chandelier.
So why does this happen? Women have two main sex hormones, estrogen and progesterone, and they help prep the body for a potential pregnancy. During certain times of the menstrual cycle, which runs about 28 days long, the hormones spike and then drop, and those shifts may lead to PMS symptoms.
But the degree of dysregulation of the estrogen and progesterone can determine how severe their symptoms are. Sometimes the symptoms are so severe, it's very disruptive to a woman's career, her family, her home, and the price is too big to pay.
Every day I'm fighting this battle to get out of bed.
Some women, like Courtney, suffer from premenstrual dysphoric disorder, or PMDD.
And it's basically defined as someone who gets severely depressed during that episode of their cycle and then simply snaps out of it. Probably 5 to 10% of the population is genetically pre-programmed to have the worst PMS moving into PMDD.
I can be happy one minute and then I'm in tears the next, and it doesn't even have to be over anything really.
Courtney also has polycystic ovary syndrome, or PCOS, another hormonal disorder where cysts form on the ovaries. It can also cause pain, abnormal hair growth, and weight gain.
Debilitating is like the best way I can describe it.
And it took 3 years for her to be diagnosed with both.
I think the narrative that's pushed by so many people, even healthcare professionals, is it's just a period, it's PMS symptoms. But it wasn't until I was diagnosed with PMDD that I really finally got an understanding that this isn't just my period.
It's very dismissed by a lot of people because they think this is a depression, anxiety, some type of mental illness, and women go decades before they get recognized. They can become suicidal, they can have suicidal ideation, they feel completely at a loss with who they are.
I think a lot of people thought I was exaggerating, and that just kind of made me feel even worse because I knew myself that I wasn't exaggerating, and these were very real and raw feelings and emotions.
Many people with these disorders are put on medications, antidepressants, and birth control to try to regulate their hormones. But some say these treatments don't go far enough.
We fail the system, we fail women, we fail to validate their experience, and they walk away with some antidepressants, which may work, by the way, but they're left unvalidated about their experience.
advocate for your health, but get the information you need from credible sources. So there's a pill for every ill, and we're very quick to intervene with medication. Sometimes we don't go to the root cause of the problem, and the misconception happens because we try and snuff out a symptom very quickly.
We need to revamp the medical education system to support, manage, and educate the caregivers out there. We need to validate women's experiences from puberty to menopause and beyond, because what is happening to them is actually real, and nobody should judge any differently.
Mother's Day is a time for celebration for many people. For others, it's a painful reminder of loss. After the break, we're going to speak with a BC mother whose son was killed by toxic drugs. Stay with us. Mother's Day, as we know, is a special day. But oftentimes we forget it can also be a very difficult day for many people, whether it's children who have lost their mothers or mother figures, those struggling with infertility, or mothers and mother figures who are grieving the loss of a loved one, perhaps a child. Today, we're joined by Maria Rantanen. She's acting editor at Richmond News, who lost her son, Michael, in July 2022 to poison drugs. Maria, thank you for joining us. First of all, what goes through your mind and perhaps your heart on Mother's Day?
It's a really hard day. I do have two other sons, and they're great, and they do things for me, so that's great. We're going out for dinner this year. But you know, having lost my oldest son, Michael, you know, part of my heart has been ripped out, and it's hard to feel kind of fully celebratory. But I mean, of course, I want to see my mom and celebrate her as well. But you know, my two other boys do step up always, and they're good. So yeah.
Tell us about Michael.
Michael was an absolute sweetheart. and he was no angel, of course. No child is. He loved two things the most in life. One was skateboarding, and the other was art. And he just wanted to skateboard and do art. And crazy skateboarder, and love that he had those great teenage years where he skateboarded like crazy and all around the Lower Mainland. He'd always call me from different places. Oh, I'm out in North Shore, or I'm out in Surrey, or I'm out. Yeah, very, and longboarding too. So, yeah, and he was also very kind and really sort of gentle, tolerant personality, and he's quite charismatic too, though.
And you've posted some of his art online on Twitter, and it's quite something.
Yeah. Sometimes it's a bit shocking. He once said to me, art isn't about pretty pictures. And he was very much, and he knew a lot about art history too. Like, he would teach me all sorts of things about art history, Impressionism or whatever movement. And so I always learned a lot from him. He was a curious mind.
In the midst of this, years-long public health emergency, poison drugs killing thousands of people in BC, including Michael, and you've had to report on this a lot.
Yeah.
How does that affect how you approach the issue?
I think I've learned that, and I've been very public about Michael's death and his struggles, and I think that telling those stories so people understand the human impact this is having. I mean, this is having an impact on not just myself, but I know that the rest of my family is grieving. I know my other sons are grieving. I know that Michael's dad is grieving, his grandmothers, his friends. I talk to some of his friends sometimes, and so to understand that each death, like again, there was 4 people reported who died in March in Richmond, and I think that's 4 families that have lost someone, and they're going to go through what I'm going through, and we have to understand that, whatever your political viewpoint on it is, or what you think the solutions are, that the impact is so devastating on families.
And for families that you've chatted with, and for people that you've connected with about Michael, and perhaps they've lost a loved one, what do you say to them? What do they say to you?
I think that it's hard for other people to understand what it's like to lose a child. And, people have a lot of different types of grief in their life, but I think just the profound loss of someone who you nurtured and who you loved and who you were your child. I mean, I don't know how else to say it. So it's that just understanding the profoundness of that loss.
And does that give each person who's experienced that loss a bit of strength, do you think, to know that there's a common bond, even though a sad one?
I do think so, yeah. And I attend some peer groups, and yeah, there is that understanding that, we have the same loss, and it does give to me, I don't feel so alone. Although I must say I have a lot of support from many, many people, and I'm so grateful for that. Yeah.
Maria Rantanen, we appreciate you sharing your story, difficult as it is. Thank you for sharing with us about Michael, and I hope you have as good a Mother's Day as you could possibly have.
Thank you. Thank you.
The president of London Drugs is staying tight-lipped over the cyber attack that closed all Western Canada stores more than a week ago. His exclusive TV interview with our Ian Hannamansing is next. The doors are once again open at London drugstores across Western Canada. But the company's president and chief operations officer says he can't and won't release details about what prompted the closures. As he tells our Ian Hannah-Mansing in an exclusive TV interview, doing that would put the company at further risk.
Clint Mullman, thank you very much for joining us.
Thank you, Ian.
This was a long closure. I don't have to tell you, a week or longer, depending on the store. And I know your store did say this was a cybersecurity attack, but not many more details. Why did you have to shut down for so long?
Well, the safety and security for all our customers, our employees is paramount. We practice and have a lot of routines that go back decades of how we prepare to defend ourselves against cybersecurity attacks, and as part of our response plan is that when we see a active cybersecurity incident undergo, it's to shut down the systems company-wide immediately to make sure that we isolate so we can mitigate the attack and start to immediately remediate what has gone on. And so it's obviously an extremely big decision, but that's the level of care that we take for our customers and employees' data to do everything humanly possible to make sure it's protected.
A lot of us really don't understand what cybersecurity attack means. What can you tell us about what happened and who might be behind it?
Yeah, the investigation's ongoing, Ian, so I can't get into the details and we'll never be releasing a lot of the details. Obviously, when the attack happened, part of our response plan is to bring in across North America the very leading experts in cybersecurity attacks. And one of the things that they are able to share with us is that these attacks have very consistent patterns. They know that these very sophisticated international entities have certain methods and behaviors. And one of those methods is they monitor media and they look at media, social media, customer speculation as forms of intelligence to further determine if they can attack us through different ways and through different leverage points. And that is why, unfortunately, despite London Drug's historical effort of being very open and honest, and we've done as best we can, that's why there's certain things we just can't and won't say to give these very sophisticated cyber entities any leverage points as possible.
What about the goal of this? Because presumably the bad actors know what their goal is, so we won't be tipping them off. A lot of speculation online that it was ransomware. Was it that? Were they trying to get customer information? What was their goal?
Ian, the investigation's ongoing, and we really don't know why London Drugs. What we can tell you is that, as is well known, companies around the world are attacked every day. London Drugs, for example, customers may find interesting that every day, for as long as I can remember, we get thousands of attempts of attack every day that we defend off. And that's just the nature of cyber activities out there today. So the investigation's ongoing, and that we will continue to work with whoever we have to make sure that we continue the best of expertise, that we open in a safe, secure and methodical way.
The news releases from your organization have said, I think to the best of your knowledge, customer information has not been compromised. Are you 100% confident that that information is safe?
Ian, the investigation's ongoing, and we're going through a massive amount of data. And as of this moment, we have no evidence that a customer database has been compromised. But there's a lot of the investigation will go on for months, and our dedication is that should we find anything, of course, we will be communicating with those individual customers. And we've already proactively reached out to the privacy commissioners to let them know what's going on. And we'll be working in coordination with them as well, should we find anything. But at this moment, we have no indications of compromise of our customer database.
You're a big chain. I think it's 79 stores in Western Canada. So that's a lot of employees. Were they paid during this closure?
Absolutely. You know, London Drugs culture has often been spoken about throughout the retail industry and other businesses as being this legendary culture with these incredibly motivated people. Just this week alone, we celebrated our first 50-year employee, 16 45-year employees, 17 40-year employees. thousands of others with long lengths of services, and we wouldn't allow these threat actors to take away that celebration of these hardworking people. And to give you the extent of the culture, we had retired employees that had a lot of IT knowledge of these old systems just show up and start to work. And it's because of those amazing employees, and sorry if I get a little emotional, they've just been amazing.
You're entitled to get emotional. I mean, it's been a very trying, emotional time. I mean, you're a guy who's been at London Drugs from the time you, I think, were a clerk while you were going to university. How's the last week been for you, Clint?
Well, you know, quite frankly, I'm like every other London Drugs person. The absolute outpouring of love from the community is magnificent, unexpected. It's been the oxygen that's motivated our people, inspired our people, made us incredibly emotional. But what it's done is it's just got our employees through this incredibly difficult time to get back. You know, we're a very proud, multi-generational, family-owned company based here with Western Canadian roots. And our love to serving the communities cannot be expressed probably in the proper words. So our employees are just so dedicated to get back to taking care of those customers. So when we see that love that the customers have been showing, and it's just been overwhelming, it's been incredible motivation, and that's what's keeping our employees and myself going at this point.
But here's a difficult and challenging question, perhaps. I'm a customer of your store, and like a lot of other people, I've got personal photos that are probably in your database. My information is there as a frequent customer, and that's multiplied by hundreds of thousands of people probably in Western Canada. Can you guarantee to us that this isn't going to happen again, that our information is going to be safe in the future?
Ian, as I've described, London Drugs has employed the latest techniques with the best of expertise, externally audited routinely. We do all sorts of tests to make sure that threat actors can't get in. And as we've seen, even the most sophisticated organizations like governments that have unlimited resources, massive corporations like some of the social media giants that have unlimited resources, even the bad actors have been able to penetrate those. So we have every belief that we have done everything humanly possible and technically possible, but still balancing customer access, because as long as we give customers access, there's still an entry point. So, you know, I can never guarantee 100%, because no organization can ever reasonably guarantee 100% with the level of sophistication and resources that these international threat actors are deploying. But I'll guarantee you we'll do everything humanly possible, technically possible, to continue to make sure that we're as safe and secure as possible.
Clint Malman, I know, difficult time, as I said, for you, certainly for your company, and I really appreciate you giving us this time today.
Thank you very much, Ian, and thank you to our customers, and especially to our employees. They've just been amazing during this time.
We have an update for transit users on the North Shore. The union representing Blue Bus System drivers and mechanics says its members have voted 88% in favor of a new two-year collective agreement with the employer, the District of West Vancouver. ATU Local 104 says leaders have been in contract talks with the employer since early December, calling for improved working conditions and benefits. Workers voted to strike earlier this month, but that has now been settled. As Israel pushes ahead with military operations in Rafah, civilian deaths are rising and medical supplies are running short. After the break, how the U.S. is reacting in an effort to stop more killings. It's not hard to find. Plenty of niche photography is out there, from boudoir to baby to maternity and beyond. But one opportunity got a Shutterbug very excited. A pair of pregnant horses. Have a look.
Hello, you big, beautiful, magical vessel of joy.
And hey, baby. Just in case you were wondering if Tessa is pregnant, yes, it's my friend is in here.
When I was chatting with Tiffany one night, she told me that she had 2 horses that were pregnant, and I've done a lot of human birth photography in my career, and I told her I wanted to do birth photography for her horses. Well, when I got to Tiffany's house, her and her daughter and her husband were making the horses look beautiful by braiding their manes and putting in flowers.
Yeah, well, they're just very special, so they should be honored. You can't even see to the other side. It's like really impressive how gigantic they are.
Just in case you were wondering how big Rosie's baby is, it is bigger than this lovely girl.
Like, I can't get how huge they look, and when I take photos of them, I'm like, wow, like, yeah, they, in the pictures that Lorene, they look gigantic, and so I was like, yay!
So we went and we took the horses sort of to a beautiful spot on Tiffany's property and started trying to figure out how to pose pregnant horses. The dress freaked out one of her horses a little bit because it was swishing when she would move and stuff, so one of the horses wasn't too fond of that. The beautiful floral crowns I had made turned into food for the horses, which was something I should have probably expected.
How excited are you to be a horse grandpa?
Very.
But my husband told me this morning that I'm not allowed to bring the babies in our bed.
Sounds like another photo shoot, Tiff.
Can't wait for the gender reveal party, Karis Hogg.
You know what? I can't wait for the little baby foal wrapped in a cabbage leaf laying on top of the mama horse.
Yes,
I
of course.
want that photo
Yeah,
shoot.
yeah.
That's what I'm waiting
Nice
for.
headband.
Yes. a
Eyes
little,
just serenely. Yep.
you know, just all bent up.
Yeah,
Just
exactly.
adorable. It'll be adorable.
Not munching on a carrot all loud.
Yeah.
What are you going to do?
That would be great too. I'll take it all.
We're already giving them ideas.
Yeah, exactly. So let's take a look at weather here. Now, I don't know if you noticed, but the edge has come off of the air out there today. In Vancouver was sunny, and the air just felt different. Now, this is because the cool, moist air is moving out, and the warmer, drier air is moving in. In fact, we've got the first significant ridge of high pressure coming into the province of the season in the next day. So here, satellite and radar over the past 24 hours, a very dry province, really, for the most part. Just a little bit of showers in the middle, but for the most part, very dry, and that's just going to continue for the next few days. So today's highs, warm, you know, 16 in Vancouver, 23 in Kamloops, 18 in Fort Nelson. Tomorrow, warming up even more. We've got 27 in Abbotsford, 26 in Kamloops, 25 in Osoyoos. Then we get to Friday's highs, and we get even warmer, especially through the central and southern interior of the province, with 29 in Kamloops, 29 in Kelowna. Saturday, the rest of the province kind of tails off, but that heat continues through the central and southern interior, with 30 in Kelowna, 30 in Osoyoos, and 29 in Castlegar. But taking a look at the 5-day Metro Vancouver forecast, tomorrow 20 near the water, but 26 inland, and those sunshines continue. We don't really get cloud until Monday, it looks like.
Consistent, we'll give it that.
Yep.
Thanks, Karis.
You're welcome.
Talks aimed at reaching a ceasefire in the Israel-Hamas war and freeing Israeli hostages continue, even as Israel pushes ahead with military operations in Rafah. Those actions have caused a growing rift between Israel and its allies. As Chris Brown explains, the U.S. is now pausing some weapons shipments because of concerns about the civilian death toll.
In the face of near-unanimous global opposition to a ground offensive into Rafah, Israel's military pursued its attacks. Its officials say this is a calibrated, limited incursion aimed at exerting pressure on Hamas. But on the ground, these scenes, shot by a freelance videographer working for CBC News, suggest civilians are among the dead. In the whole area, there are only civilians. There are no militants, said Reda al-Najili, who witnessed the attack. For the first time, a senior U.S. official acknowledged publicly that the U.S. has withheld a shipment of ammunition to Israel to send a message not to go any further.
Israel shouldn't launch a major attack in Rafah without accounting for and protecting the civilians that are in that battle space.
Privately, Israeli officials are said to be furious over the U.S. move, but publicly, they've tried to downplay the significance of it. The partnership with U.S. Central Command is of an unprecedented operational scale, said Israeli Rear Admiral Daniel Hagari. All of this comes against the backdrop of ongoing negotiations with Hamas. Monday, the militant group said it accepted a ceasefire proposal, but Israel said Hamas changed the terms of the agreement. In Gaza, there's fear the talks will fail again. We spoke to Canadian Nika Alexander, who's in Rafah with the World Health Organization.
As we drove through the streets yesterday and today, you could see people have piled up everything they own onto donkey carts, crammed into cars, many people together in a bus, just trying to get to some place that maybe will feel safer. But we do feel that nowhere is completely safe, so that's really stressful.
While aid trucks, which had been unable to enter Gaza for several days, began moving again, Alexander says the flow of medical supplies and fuel for generators has reduced to a trickle, adding to a sense of impending doom.
You just can't imagine how many people might die if there's a great escalation in the fighting in this area.
Hamas is demanding a guarantee that the war will end if it frees the hostages. But Israel says it will only agree to a temporary pause because many members of its coalition government want the war against Hamas to continue. Chris Brown, CBC News, Jerusalem.
CBC News has learned new details about the security at Drake's home in Toronto. This comes after a guard was shot outside the rap star's mansion on Tuesday. Thomas Dagler now with what we know about the firm in charge of protecting that property.
Leather glove, no sequins. In a music video 4 years ago, I could dance like Michael Jackson. Drake showed off the lavish interior of his Toronto mansion. He never hid the address, even putting that nickname, the Embassy, on full display outside. But at a public council meeting in 2019, an architecture firm hired by the rap star revealed Drake's security nightmare.
Everyone knows where he sleeps, where he eats, and that has really freaked him out, us out, and we need heavy security outside.
At that meeting, the city granted Drake permission to build extra tall fencing around his property. And this week it was just outside that police say a suspect drove up and shot a security guard.
He was standing outside of the gates in front of the residence when the shooting occurred.
CBC News has learned more about the security firm operating here outside the house. Have a look at that vehicle. Jungle Lion Security presents itself as Canada's #1 provider of security services.
But no one answered our repeated calls, and the firm doesn't appear to have a website. We obtained Ontario Transportation Ministry records showing the license plate on the company's vehicle is registered to Aubrey D. Graham, better known as Drake. And the only person listed in the security firm's public profile is the man seen next to Drake in this video, his reported head of security, known to fans as Chubbs.
People that are in the rapper world, they are the most highest threat level of any people in the entertainment industry.
The Canadian star's feud with fellow rapper Kendrick Lamar has only raised the stakes, He always said I overlooked him, I was staring straight. With the pair trading escalating insults and threats. Psst, I see dead people. In a flood of new songs devoured by fans. Police are aware of the beef, but say they don't know the attacker's motive yet. Thomas Dagg, CBC News, Toronto.
An all-Canadian playoff hockey matchup is frothing up some old rivalries. So we went to an aquatic center to find out who will win the series. His prediction after this. Tonight, a much anticipated game. The Vancouver Canucks taking on the Edmonton Oilers for the second round of their playoff series just down the street at Rogers Arena.
Yes, and I was so lucky. Earlier today, I took a trip to the Vancouver Aquarium to visit Joey the Otter. Now, he correctly predicted the winner of the Super Bowl. As for this series, let's take a look. Here we are at the Vancouver Aquarium for the Great Otter Prediction. Who is going to win this second round series between the Vancouver Canucks and the Edmonton Oilers? I am a little bit nervous. Jessica, how are you feeling?
Feeling pretty nervous, but Joey got it right last time with the Super Bowl, so really hoping he can pull through for this one.
I just feel like there's so much more at stake here compared to the Super Bowl prediction, right?
Absolutely, way more at stake, but that's why me and Nadine had a little offside with him and had a conversation about, you know, what we should do in this situation.
Okay, so you've been prepping Joey. Yeah. Now, I'm assuming you've been prepping Joey to maybe go for the Canucks one?
Absolutely. Born and raised in Vancouver, so I have influenced him in the correct direction, but he tends to be mischievous, and who knows if he'll listen. He'll go with his gut, which usually just says more food. So I'm hoping because there's more clam on the Vancouver one that he'll be going for that one. Should we let out the otter, Nadine? Let's do it.
Okay. The door is open. The door has been opened. We've got a giant disc here. Joey is black and 3 feet long and is heading straight for the Canucks. Oh my goodness, that was so fast. I've never seen anything so fast in my life. Joey is laying down on the ground, licking the Vancouver Canucks tray that is covered with clam bits that are shaped in the logo of the Vancouver Canucks. The Oilers tray has not been touched. It is stationary. Joey is not interested. Joey is lying down, licking ferociously right now at this Vancouver Canucks logo made of 100% clam? Is it all clam?
Clam and food coloring.
Wow, and it looks beautiful. It says Vancouver Canucks. It's got the Canucks logo and everything, and Joey hasn't moved. As soon as the door opened, Joey just made a beeline for the Canucks tray. This is incredible. I can't believe this. I was honestly very nervous. I'm still, my heart is pounding. This is a big deal because Joey predicted the Super Bowl outcome correctly. And so, I mean, he must be right. He must know. Joey is having a time just going after that orca whale, chewing and chewing. Look at this. Wow. Okay, let's bring in the other otters. Let's see where they go. All right, here they come. They're all wet and hungry. Okay, now this other one did go for the, okay, now we've got two other ones nibbling on the Oilers tray. All right. Oh, they flipped it over. They flipped it over. Well, now they can't even, now they're laying on the upside down Oilers tray, licking the Vancouver Canucks tray. This is outstanding.
If this doesn't say how they feel, then nothing will.
They're very clearly stating their preference. They are chowing down on that Vancouver Canucks logo like it is going out of style. Joey, I'd love to know your process. Joey, how did it taste? Was that good Vancouver Canucks clam? Did it taste good? Did it taste like victory? Sweet, sweet second round victory? I think Joey is full of clam and is really a very smart otter. From the Vancouver Aquarium, I'm Karis Hogg for CBC News.
Joey's real subtle, eh?
Joey knows a lot about hockey.
Mm-hmm. And his friends.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah. No love lost.
No, and you know what? There was nothing subtle about it. It was just like as soon as that door opened, I thought he might take his time. Boom.
Ready to go.
Yeah.
Love it.
So I'm feeling positive about Joey's prediction. I don't know about you.
I got money on it. And dinner's covered. Clam bits and food coloring. Have a good night.
Yum.
News at 11.